What's up, everybody? It's LaidbackMarco coming at you with another video. I don't even know who I really make these videos for anymore. It's mainly just, I think it's my mom actually watches my YouTube, but it's mainly now it's just for me. I do it to kind of log my life. Not that it's that important, but it helps me to organize my ideas. But more than that, my writing helps me to do that. So if you actually wants to know what's going on with me, it's on my written blog, because I'm much better at that than I am on video, to be quite honest with you. So it's the peak season of tourist season. So I've been away from my house effectively for 3 weeks at this point, and I'm lucky to even have a day off here, which is it's kind of insane. I can't believe I'm saying that. You know, tour guiding isn't exactly a 9-to-5 job. So when you're not doing tours, you're either planning for them or researching things or getting ready for your next one. You're doing expense reports and daily reports. And I really wanted to upload more videos to see if I could get this dream rolling. We're actually moving backwards, get some traction somewhere. But I've always wanted to remain authentic, and I've tried some retention editing before, and I just don't like the way that happens. And maybe I'll try again. You know, there's always room for starting anew. I've actually had ideas for my second channel, my gaming channel, of playing retro games. It's funny to think about the kids. When I thought of retro games growing up, it was, you know, like the Atari 2600 or some of the earlier NES or Sega games. But now retro gaming is the original Xbox. And it's hard to play a lot of the original Xbox games because the emulators are pretty far behind. So I've been wanting to actually just play through the original Xbox games. And when I was a kid, I used to read what's called Official Xbox Magazine, and I wanted to play some of those games and see what that was like, you know, retroactively looking back on it. There's some pretty cool websites that archive all these old magazines and all these old games. So I've been looking into reading through those. Been doing a lot of reading and writing. In time between my tours, I've been reading a book on Hayao Miyazaki. I've watched a Ghibli film, and I started playing Sonic. And I beat Sonic again, so I kind of wanted to do a playthrough of Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, not again, it was the first time I beat Sonic. Because as a kid, you can only get so far on the games, but as an adult, it becomes a lot easier to figure out the mechanics. And I think kids are really good at video games nowadays. It's kind of crazy to see how far they've come. But yeah, I've been doing tour guiding, and it's been tough. For me personally, because I like consistency in my schedules. So while the life is fun, having a consistent schedule is nice. Also, I think just financially, it's kind of tough. Even with tips, and even with generous tips at that, it's just, you know, you look at what you could be making doing something that doesn't require a degree or any sort of special knowledge in America, and you get a bit, what am I doing with my life? It's my 8th year living here, and I still think financially and in terms of my career was a mistake to come here. It's a hard, and you know, it's even made even more tough because I do love Japan, and I do like my current job. You know, it is fun going to different places and essentially ranting about Japan and seeing these famous sites all the time. You know, you're just exposed to Kinkakuji all the time, and that's fun and all. And I was actually talking to one of my guests about this. I'm pretty open because honesty and empathy is a two-way street, and I find if usually you open up, people are also willing to open up. But as I get to know these guests, sometimes I'm with them for 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about, you know, stopping this job despite liking it and going home. And I was talking to one of them, and they were telling me that, oh, if you enjoy it and you're still interested in it, maybe you should keep doing it. Which does sound kind of nice. I think sometimes in life you have to do what you don't enjoy or are not interested in. As I was going up through college, I had a bit of an existential crisis. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm at the end of the pipeline, and all I can see is work this 9-to-5 and hate your life for the next whatever, how long you stay alive, right? So you're doing the Alan Watts code of supporting yourself to keep on living, to keep on doing things you don't want to do. So I tried to do the opposite of that. And then, unfortunately, I don't know if it's skill, talent, or persistence. I don't have enough of one of them. And not everyone who chases their passions, their dreams, and their interests, it doesn't work out for everybody. Unfortunately, I'd say it doesn't work out for the majority of people, probably 85 and 90% of them. And I was one of those people, I was like, oh, I was going to go here and start a YouTube channel and have it make money and go to graduate school of some kind, and hopefully a graduate school in Japan. I was just in Kyoto. It was really my goal to live in Kyoto one day and go to the art university they have there. But obviously, it didn't happen, and that's why I'm talking to you about it now. So I think, I just turned 30 last year, and I made a quite depressing video about 30, but it's really how I feel, and I really try to be authentic with these videos. I think that's the one thing my channel does have in abundance is I pretty open, to the point of oversharing on both my blog and my vlog. But I'm getting to the point now where I'm going to have to figure this game of life out, and if that means, unfortunately, playing less video games, doing less of these video things, doing less vlogging or drawing or whatever it is. I still draw all the time. Haven't improved at that much. I think, with things like drawing and making music, if I heard a quote where it's like, if it doesn't take off, and you know that you don't have the talent, the likeliness of you doing that for a living is probably pretty low when you're young. I'm getting to the point where it's like, maybe I have to do less of that stuff to figure out the game of life, unfortunately. And it's a real painful realization where it's like, you try it, and it's not working. So I think I set my time from returning to Japan. Really, I know I said this last year or maybe the year before. Oh, like, I'm thinking about going home, but I've made the decision to probably like actually return home at the end of the year in December. It was a big family vacation, and after that I'm probably gonna go home. And it's, I'm sad just thinking about it. I can feel the emotion. Yeah, it's like admitting to yourself it didn't work out. It's tough, but we gave it a good shot, right? So now I know. Yeah, it's about time to go home and grow up, essentially, I think. And even if that means, taking the L and like living at home with my parents, essentially, and figuring it out. I don't know. I just feel so lost, and I've felt this way for quite a while. Just lost. So maybe learning about finance or something, or what I'm trying to. You try to get advice from everywhere, and some of the advice is to make your money first and figure that out, and then worry about getting famous after if you want that. Because I think I've been looking at it the wrong way. I was like, oh, if I make a YouTube channel, that will lead to success and opportunities, and when really it's like you should figure out things financially first, learning how money works. Making enough money to save anything. Here it's like you're making like just enough to pay for your rent. I'm lucky enough to have a car. I'm paying just enough to scrape by, keeping that on the road barely. And then by the time your medications, food, gas bill are paid, you're just like walking home with nothing. On top of the stupid Adobe subscription and LinkedIn, because I was like, oh, maybe I can get a job through this. But yeah, so just figuring out how that works. And then timing and organization, like, are basic things I can work on. I'm sitting in a messy room, but I'm here for one day, and I'm on the road again. So it's tough. It's tough. Yeah. After I've shared that bombshell with you, I'll kind of talk about a couple of experiences that I've had, just because I feel like for someone wanting to do maybe social media or videography or whatever. I just don't do it enough. There's always an excuse, but I don't share enough of my life, funnily enough, because I don't think it's that important, and I think most people think that about their life, and other people might find this important. Anyway, so I went to a big drift event. It's called Butcher Style Racing. It's actually run by a foreigner. I did videography there. I have gigabytes of video footage sitting on my hard drive that I need to get through and edit. And I made a couple connections there, getting better at talking to people. One of them is a guy named Car Film, who does a lot of work, and another guy called, well, he does videography work around cars, hence the name Car Film. It's pretty easy. And another one called Aldrin, who I met through my cousin. And that was a lot of fun. It's just finding that big block of time to edit a video I know will get less than 1,000 views. So, it's like you scrub through all the footage, you take what's good, and then maybe moving forward as a strategy, it's instead of just uploading one video with that and making one really good YouTube video, which is how I grew up with media content and video content in particular. Maybe it's doing that and then chopping up that footage to make a bajillion social media videos so there's constant uploads. That's one thing I struggle with because I honestly I hate the laziness of so many, let's see, like car influencers and people where they just stick it all in CapCut and they upload something. And I think me as a video person can tell it's like, oh, that's just a shitty CapCut template. But people who aren't in the video editing space, who just scroll and look at your shit for 2 seconds, it's not like they care whether it was made in CapCut or whether they don't care about a lot of that stuff. And I think the thing that's not lazy about it is they're continuously uploading. So it's just putting out more stuff. Hence maybe I should just start putting out more stuff. After that, there was a family I had. We went to Tokyo Tower, and they had My Hero Academia cutouts, and I actually nerded out. And I think it's part of my charm as a tour guide, and part of the reason they enjoyed being with me is seeing me nerd out and getting so excited about something they had no idea about. And so a series I need to catch up on. It's actually a really good series. What I realized is the main character, Deku, gets his powers like Spider-Man. And the powerful thing about that is the way Deku and Spider-Man get their powers is technically anyone could get their powers that way. So anyone can get bit by a radioactive spider and become Spider-Man. Anyone can have their, a superhero hand them their powers essentially. So it's easy to imagine yourself as them. That's why they're good characters. And then I had another family who came who was also really interested in anime. And so I got to nerd out. And actually, that's where I got the idea. I don't know if I'll make this a reality. To watch every Ghibli film. I actually have 2 books by Hayao Miyazaki. And I finally had the excuse to pick up and read them. And my opinion on Hayao Miyazaki changed after reading that book. I actually used to think he was a pretty sour individual. And I think he still is a pretty sour individual in terms of his cynicism and kind of negative about a lot of things. But as I read his book, I felt like I became closer to him. And I felt like I saw why he was like that. Because, to be honest, I think we glorify the Japanese anime industry, and they do make some amazing products. But the reality of being an animator in Japan is everyone thinks everyone thinks being an animator is this awesome, fun work, and a lot of it is you get to explore things and explore your creative vision. But the reality of it is doing very basic, boring tasks. And apparently, these are his words, not mine. Teaching technical drawing skills is something that you can do to anybody. I would take that with a grain of salt because I think talented people have no idea what it's like for us plebs to study something. But he says to, instead of going to the anime industry right away, go to college or have fun or get life experience, and maybe one day I will be in the animation industry in some small capacity, way or form, and I'll be able to look back on that and be like, yeah, I had my life experience first, and then I went into the industry. So that's part of the hope. But we also went to a manga drawing class, and drawing proper proportions and things like that for anime was pretty fun to sit there and experience and learn along with someone. So that's cool. Okay, I actually talked to the grandpa of that family. We had great conversations about engineering, and actually one of the concepts that really made sense there was hydraulic pumps, because a lot of these onsens actually use hydraulic pumps. And if you go to this place called Owakudani, they have a really good geothermic museum where they show you how onsens get their onsen water, and they actually pump air or water into the ground to get the hot water to come up. So actually air, yeah. So they'll pump air into the ground to get water to come up another way. So that's interesting. Art, yeah. So I was able to sit around and do some art. I do upload it on my Instagram. I think it's getting better, but it's not anything to write home about. But yeah, I do really want to go to grad school and hopefully get a master's of the arts somewhere. But I don't know if that's the best move with AI. You know, a lot of people just, and I want to be as kind to my friends as I can. But a lot of people on Facebook think they're artists now. I just type in some stuff and I'm an artist. But yeah, maybe it's the creative ideas that's the main thing with art. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I see AR as a threat or it has no soul, but something just about it feels off and wrong for some reason. Well, part of it is because they've trained this AI art on the backs of humanity's struggles over the years, so maybe that has something to do with it. I will say that does bring me to a separate side tangent of using AI to improve my life and improve my processes. So I talk to my chat GPT a lot. It actually knows that scarily a lot about me. I don't know. They probably keep some sort of profile on you, which I find beneficial actually. You know, it knows I run a blog. It knows I'm trying to do this videography thing. I'm asking it things like, how do I organize my website? How do I learn about finance? And it's got some really good ideas. You know, make some series for your vlog. Maybe stick to these categories. So I kind of use it as an editor and someone who maybe gets to where I want to get to. Because I think one thing I've really struggled to find in my life is I have one person who kind of acts as a friend and a mentor, but there's no one in a. It's not like I wouldn't want to be where he is 10 years from now. He's living a great life in Hawaii. But there's no one close to me that can teach me where I want to get to in 5 years. It's like just discovering it yourself, right? So that's one of the things I'm using ChatGPT to get me somewhere, and then maybe I can be that person for someone else is the future. Maybe I could be more often than not. I think I'm the example of what not to do, unfortunately. But yeah, I go to the same tourist locations a lot. How do you keep it interesting? You know, when you're at Asakusa or Sensoji Temple for the what is probably like 30th, 40th time this year, how do you keep it interesting? Well, you go to new places. You know, you go to all those little corners that you're like, well, I don't know about this place, but we'll check it out. And some great things can happen when you go to new places. You can bump into new people, or just keeping it fresh in your mind. And also learning things about the context of some area, or even just hidden details. Like sometimes you don't notice them the first time. So it is good going back to those places. One of those places is actually, I went to a bar called Not Suspicious. Just because of the name, I'd walked by it so many times. Now, I would say it's not a very quote unquote local bar. It is one where a lot of foreign visitors come, but sometimes you need that. I ran into someone from Canada, and then, you know, I was drawing with crayons, and I thought, oh God, drawing with crayons. I don't know how to draw with these. But then I just started drawing, and I drew a lot of photos and made a lot of art. So sometimes it's bad to ask yourself those kind of questions, and you just go out and do. Now the other thing is I went to a yokocho. I know. So one hand you go out and go to new places, and then on the other hand, sometimes you go to the same places, and then your relationship with these little shop owners will change. So I was talking to a guy in Matsumoto. So I go to this yokocho often a lot, and sometimes going to the same place, the same yakitori place, or in the case of Hiroshima okonomiyaki. Sometimes it's good to just know the little store owners, and go to the same okonomiyaki shop over and over again. Yeah, so I went to the Yokocho, and I found that my relationship with the guys that run the yakitori thing have changed. They're like, oh, they come see me, they say my name, and instead of talking about, oh, who are you, what do you do, what are the things you like, you're talking about, oh, how's your life at home going, or oh, well, you're getting married, oh my god, congratulations, you're about to have a kid, oh my god. And they talk about things like, oh, I really wanted to get into game live streaming. And I was like, why don't you just live stream your yakitori making, because I'm sure someone on the internet would find it interesting. I know there are some weebs who would just sit there and watch a yakitori shop stream. It's like that one dad. Because I don't know, he like dresses up as an alien in Fortnite and just hides in the bush, bush dad or whatever. I also went to the crafts museum this time in Kanazawa. I had a appreciation for the things that maybe I didn't have an appreciation for before, like those little lacquer bowls, or the way they put flowers on kimonos. It's interesting to learn that kind of stuff. One of the super interesting things I ran into was a guy who was married to a Japanese girl and made a cafe. And it's a photographer. So I walked in, I saw these beautiful photos on the wall in Nagano, and I was like, wow, oh my god, these are amazing. Do you upload these anywhere? And I think I was taken aback a bit when he said, no, I just do them for my sake and to look at on this wall, and photography for photography's sake. And I never really, it kind of hit my mind like a concept, because we're always trying to, you see it anytime you go anywhere famous, people are, I'm guilty of it too, but they're looking at their phone, taking photos, almost like a checklist of, I was here, we're taking photos of it's, realistically, it's only 100 years old, but the original conception was a 1,200-year-old temple, just to say that we've been there. But then it made me think about my whole, one of the reasons I'm making this video, right, for this video's sake, or this photos for this photo's sake, changed my concept of art and photo. I wouldn't say change, but it made me realize we should do this just because we enjoy it. And whether it's art or videography, and yeah, I very much like my conversation. And the next time I go to Nagano, I want to sit down at the coffee shop and talk about art. My aunt also came to Japan, my Filipino aunt, and we spent a day in Tokyo, and she thought it was so amazing that I was doing all this basic stuff. But yeah, I think I've come a long way in hopefully 8 years. Hopefully you've come a long way in that amount of time. But just getting around and existing within Japan. One of the nice thing that's really happened on this tour was I was having my okonomiyaki, and the restaurant I used was actually my second or third time going there, because I had a family who had come before, and I did a couple of explorations on my own. So that's how you learn about places, though. You kind of walk around and find one, like, this isn't nice, and maybe you bring a guest there, or maybe someone from the office was like, oh, you should go to this one. So I'd been there for the third time, and I was drinking my beer after. The lady was like, oh, we're gonna close this restaurant and move it somewhere closer to the bars and the drinking areas, but how about I introduce you to some of the other shop owners? I was like, oh yeah, oh, that's too bad. I like going here. It's really convenient, and you're really nice. But as we went around to the different shops, it was like, oh my god, yeah, all these other people. And it's funny because all those shop owners are like kind of friends. But we went around, she introduced me to a couple ones. The next night I went back to one of those shops, and he was really nice to me. So I'll probably go to that one again. But just the hospitality. We talked about how he loves beer, but he can't drink beer because of his gout. But yeah, he offered me some free German beers on the house, and he upgraded my little beer into the medium. I drank more that night than I had intended to, but the hospitality was so great. He was actually about to cook me some oysters, but then I was like, oh, I'm actually allergic the oysters. So he made me some ham. Ham is a little thick over here. Ham in the shape of sakura flowers, just on the house. So yeah, it was a good experience there. It was nice. One of the other nice touches is actually meeting your other tour guides. So sometimes you work for the same company, and you won't see people the entire busy season. I think there's something that needs to be done about busy season, but I don't know what we're doing here is not sustainable. I think that's this the tour. I think that's the tour industry all around the world. Everyone just thinks that, oh, being a guide is so fun. It's not work at all. No, it's work. Trust me, it's work. But maybe it's one of those things where I need to check my privilege. I know that's the lingo on that, and it is work, but it's not tedious soul killing work, I guess. So I guess there's a step forward in the right direction there. One of the last things that's happened, that was super duper awesome, was in my last group, the farewell speech. They gave it in the form of like a Jedi Council meeting. I had no idea there was so many Star Wars fans in my last group, but they did like a little Jedi Council meeting, and they handed me a thank you envelope with some nice words to say and some nice trinkets. I think one of the things I do on my tours that not every tour guide does, and not every tour guide should feel inclined to do, is after a long extended tour, especially these big group tours, I take the time to write letters and think about my interactions I've had with each person. And to be honest, sometimes you don't some people are quieter than others, or some people choose to do things on your own. So it makes it tough when you get those kind of quiet people, or those people who don't interact with you much. But I find over 2 weeks you'll interact in a group size of 16 anyway. You'll interact with someone at least a couple times and get to know them a little bit. But I'll take my time to think about those interactions, and I'll write thank you notes, because I think the most valuable thing you can give someone is time. I think there's something about, no matter how wealthy you get, the one thing that you can't buy is more time. Yet, until we get the cyborg cat girl bodies, and I'm ditching this one. But it's one of those things where you can't buy more time on the earth, and I don't know. Even if they could do that, I don't know if the poor people like me can afford that. But yeah, I think just showing the gesture of I take the time to think about this is a lot. And on this particular tour, it was 2 people's birthdays. I was actually advised not to do this because my manager is very strict. Well, not strict, but she doesn't think you should go above and beyond to the guests, because not everyone would do the same for you, if that makes sense. But it was 2 of the guests' birthdays, so I bought. It comes out of my pocket. I'm not saying that to be like, oh, this comes out of my pocket to brag. But it's sometimes little gestures that you can do to show someone that they're important and they're special, right? Because everyone is in their own way, even though I say my blog and my blog aren't special. So I bought, these things don't cost that much money. And it's like, okay, I'd be happy to lose 2,000 yen, which is what? It's fucking like $12 nowadays with the exchange rate. Oh my God. Yeah. To buy 2 slices of cake, some dollar store candles, and, a lighter. It's those little gestures that don't really, they're not monetarily a lot of money, but they can mean a lot to someone if you do something like that. So I try to do stuff like that. Maybe it's just me being a tryhard, but it's in a way, I think it's a little selfish, because you would hope that someone would do that for you one day. And I still think about my failure of my 30th birthday, and I think it just shows that I'm pretty poor with people. I couldn't even get like 5 people to show up to have like a mini F1 race. That's all I want. I wanted to have a faux F1 race on my birthday, where we go to a go-kart track and we have our qualifying session, and then like a little stupid interviews in front of a camera. But yeah, it's one thing that you would want I don't know. This is going off the rails now. I have no more. It's not a script, but there's no more talking points I wanted to cover. I think that's everything that's happened to me in the past, what, 3 or 4 weeks since I made a video. This one won't have much editing because it's just, I know no one's gonna watch it anyway, so there's no point. And I'm just trying to get my thoughts out. Who was this vlog for? I don't know. What's this video for? I don't know. But if you do like what you see, feel free to do that stupid YouTube stuff. I know I kind of shit talk YouTubers all the time, but it's like, yeah, you like, share, sub, whatever. And this was brought to you by Raid Chat. No, that's fine. Bye.